After months and months of waiting, the wait's finally over. CFL football is finally back. But before we really deep dive and delve into week one and the Montreal Alouettes, it wouldn't be the best for me if I didn't mention, obviously, just sending our best thoughts to the Stiegel family right now, going through what I can only picture as an unspeakable tragedy with the loss of their son Chase last night. And I have no idea why or what happened. It's just one of those things that, as a CFL family, basically everyone's just got to support the Stiegel family through, like what I said, can only be a truly just unthinkable and unspeakable thing of like what they're going through.
Oh yeah, it's tragedy. I don't think, again, I can't imagine anything more heartbreaking than a parent having to bury their child. And I could just imagine how I know how much Milt loves his boys, and to lose a son like that at such a tender young age. I mean, 20 years old. I mean, it's a young man who had his whole life ahead of him still. It's incredible. So, I mean, obviously, my thoughts to the entire Stiegel family, to CFL fans as well, who love and support Milt Stiegel, and appreciate everything that he does, not just for the league but also for TSN as well, and his coverage of the Canadian Football League. Actually, I got to meet Milt at Grey Cup last year, and just a gentleman through and through. And yeah, I can't even imagine the heartbreak that he's going through right now. So definitely, my thoughts are with the entire Stiegel family during this difficult time.
I can't either, but I just love how the one thing I always say too, because everyone there's obviously CFL, there's NFL, but the big difference between the two of them is no matter which team you cheer for in the CFL, everyone comes together, and this kind of shows the bond that CFL fans have with each other, that even through the best of times and the worst of times, at the end of the day, everyone knows that it's just a game and that everyone respects each other. And like I said, they're really coming together for Milt and his wife and the rest of his family during this very difficult time over the last 24 hours for him.
Well, yeah, you talk about the term that I see used all the time on social media is CFL family. I mean, it really is a family when you think about it. It's just, spreads across nationwide. And even though, you're a diehard fan of, the Elks or the Alouettes or the Ticats or the Argos or whomever, the fact that we can still all come together at Grey Cup and celebrate this game and celebrate our love and passion for it. And again, when you lose a family member, like what Milt has done, I mean, I'm not going to trivialize it by comparing, the CFL family to his own family, but at the same time, CFL fans feel that loss for players like, especially one who has been revered as much as Milt Stiegel has. So, I mean, to go through such a horrendous ordeal it's something it's felt nationwide and league wide, and even just the tributes that have been coming in from all 9 teams, from TSN and so on. It shows what kind of impact Milt Stiegel had on the Canadian Football League and its fans, and I dare say that everybody is grieving alongside him today.
100%. I couldn't have said it better. And folks, with that is my guest for the day, Mr. Cliffy D. Pine, host of one half of the hosting duo of the Alouettes Flight Deck podcast. Moving on from, obviously, because I just wanted to, we've talked briefly about the show, but I just feel like, I was thinking of all day of how to do not a proper tribute, but just say the proper words and emotions. And I feel like what I did was the best way to go about it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, just shifting gears now to, you said it best, where it's football, it's a great game, but it's a lousy business in the sense that because I think people forget that until the releases happen, that at the end of the day, these are more than just men in uniform, and that these are guys who are fighting for livelihoods, for financial gain, et cetera, et cetera. And 2 very surprising cuts, one coming from your Montreal Alouettes and my Toronto Argonauts in Walter Fletcher and Kadeem Carey. So my next question for you is, this is someone who's dipping his toes back into the rest of the Eastern Division. Because we all know what the plan for quarterback is for Montreal. We all know it's Davis Alexander, but what's the next man up situation with the running back room for the Alouettes going forward now that Fletcher's no longer there?
Well, and essentially what it is you've got Sean Thomas Erlington, who is a veteran and a very capable veteran, as we saw last year when Fletcher went down to injury. It was Sean Thomas Erlington who stepped up from being just a special teams demon, which he's done very well in his tenure in Montreal, but proven that, yeah, he too, you give him the rock and he can run with it, and not afraid to lower his shoulder, bowl people over, and then turn on the jets when needed. Essentially, it was that play and that kind of training camp that STE was having that essentially made them take a look at all of the running backs that were there, including Stevie Scott and Travis Theis. And they said, you know what? Walter Fletcher's good. He's really good. I mean, he was arguably the best two-way player in the Canadian Football League. I've said it before, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face, but Walter Fletcher truly is the best two-way player in the Canadian Football League. To have that kind of confidence in your running back room that you can take that particular caliber of a player and say thanks, but no thanks, especially a member of that Grey Cup winning team 2 years ago, and show him the door. That speaks to, it's bold. It speaks to a lot of the confidence that they have in all three of the running backs that I had mentioned, and their ability to work with David Alexander, work with this offense in Montreal. And hopefully it's a very calculated gamble, but one that I hope for the Alouettes' sake does pay off, because guys like Walter Fletcher don't grow on trees. I mean, the fact that Montreal was able to get him for a song a couple of years ago blows my mind still. And the confidence they had in him made it easy for them to let William Stanbeck walk out the door basically a year and a bit ago. But again, that's essentially sports in a nutshell, and especially football in a nutshell, is what have you done for me lately? And now it's, Walter Fletcher, who's now unfortunately experiencing it, despite signing a 2-year extension with the Alouettes in December and getting a nice little signing bonus for that as well. Basically being told, yeah, you're good, but for this team, not good enough.
Yeah, and then with Toronto, with Kadeem Carey, I was kind of caught off guard too, just because I thought for sure, like, same thing. He signed massive part to their Grey Cup championship last year, had a massive game in the Grey Cup, signs a nice contract extension in the offseason, was brought in as a sort of, not castaway, but an unused commodity in Calgary. Ryan did when he saw a lot of hope and promise in him, to where I remember asking Ryan after the first game, saying, how big was he Carey? And he just looks at me and says, well, that's why we brought him in. And then I think with Carey, it was more about the fact that not so much of his talent, but a durability and an age thing. I think what we see in the NFL with running backs, where there is that shelf life, is slowly starting to trickle up north, to where, unless your name is Brady Oliveira, you can basically, the shelf life's a lot shorter than they think. And if they see someone like you're saying with the running backs in Montreal, it's the same thing with Toronto, where now Deontay McMahon, no longer McMahon, and Mayan Williams from Ohio State, and also as well, there's a couple other guys. But you're seeing talent that it's just like, hey, what have you done for me lately? And how durable are you? Because at the end of the day, if there's injury concerns there, kind of like Kadeem Carey has a little bit, and to you, what I'm getting from you for Walter Fletcher as well, it's just another red flag to add on to it, to where running back's the position where it's the easiest to, like, say there's an out for it. Unlike, a DB or a quarterback or an offensive lineman, you don't really, or even a wide receiver, you don't see the injury card played a lot with that. Meanwhile, with running backs, you do, because there's a reason why they're called a bell cow when you're the best at what you do.
Yeah, and again, unless you're Winnipeg, then you just happen to be a running back factory when it comes to guys like Andrew Harris and Brady Oliveira and Johnny Augustine when he was there too. Like all national running backs, which that too is a bit of an outlier as well. But yeah, like guys like Harris and Oliveira, they were getting older, but still producing at an extremely top-notch level. But typically, yeah, once you get close to 30, that's when they start looking at you and like, oh, how much do we have left of this guy? It sounds callous to say, but I mean, that really is the reality. Like, running backs in professional football truly is, once you hit 30, you got nowhere to go but down. And like, again, aside from the occasional, unicorn like Andrew Harris, who seemed to get better as he got older.
Yeah,
that's the exception, not the rule. And ultimately, you take a look at your depth. You take a look at the younger running backs, and ultimately, that's the thing. Running backs are a dime a dozen, and if you can find someone that can do just as well as a Kadeem Carey and Walter Fletcher, but you only have to pay them half of what you were paying those other two, Well, financially, it makes a lot of sense to make the moves that the Argos and the Alouettes made when it came to their running back room.
1,000%. That's just it with it, unfortunately, where it's you know, if you gotta do what you gotta do to find one, and if you find one, great. And also, too, by the way, the other running back that I was thinking of was Jiron Mitchell as well, who had the huge touchdown against Hamilton Friday night.
Yeah.
But they're a dime a dozen. So hey, if you find one, keep on to it and hold on to it for as long as you have. Kind of like what you're saying with the Bombers have done with Andrew Harris and Brady, and now Brady Oliveira too. It's one of those things. Montreal is one of those teams that really intrigues me, not from any other standpoint, but the fact that Jason Moss has truly built a culture there that players are just like, it's a mix of want to play for him, but it's also not drill sergeant to the extent where he comes off as like he's a prick. It's drill sergeant as in, I'm going to tell you you're going to do something and you're going to do it for me. But the guys who are there love it and buy into it. And so, with that being said, then what's the vibe that or the tone he's setting for the team? Because look, Toronto and Montreal flipped roles. 2023, it was Montreal with a lot of question marks. They're the ones hoisting the Grey Cup. I was actually at that. I was at that game. And then 2024, Montreal was running the table all year long. And then the East Final, a couple bad plays went their way to where, you know what, Danny Machocha said, we got to make a change of quarterback. So from everything I just said, how do you feel like not just the coaching staff, but what's the coaching staff relaying to where the fans look at it to go, we're going to be just fine?
And a lot of it comes from Jason Moss and how he coaches. And he is tough. He's not a drill sergeant by any stretch, but at the same time, he wants to
Drill
get the
sergeant
best.
F, my bad, not like directly there, but like,
Right. I kind of get where you're going with it. And to me, I just feel like he's going to do everything he can to get the most out of you. And
what I meant.
I think some people call it tough love. Some people call it like being hard on someone and that. But it's truthfully, that's the way he coaches, is to get the most out of you as a player. And I think that's why players love him, is the fact that he's going to be hard on them, quote unquote. He's going to yell. He's going to use 15 F words to get his point across. That's just his style. That's just how he is. But if you look beneath the surface of that, you see that there's someone who cares, someone who believes in you. And if Jason Moss believes in you, you better be one hell of a football player. And you've got a lot to live up to at that point. And more often than not, those players rise to the occasion, and they will run through a wall for Jason Moss and this entire coaching staff as a whole too, because a lot of them are in that same vein. Like, a lot of them are very tough, very demanding, but they know that you can handle it. And if you can't handle it, you won't be on this team for very long. But if you can handle it and you rise to the occasion and you respond to it, you're going to become the best possible football player. And that's how this organization is. And that's how they've become so successful over the past couple of years, is they've been able to get the very best out of each and every one of their players. And if they can't, then they're not afraid to say, you know what, best of luck to you, but we're going in a different direction and you're not a part of that.
Cody Fajardo is a perfect example, because I feel like 2 years ago in that Grey Cup game, he cemented himself because, look, he had just made the plays when everyone thought he couldn't. And he did the moments where no one, not to know everyone was doubting him, but he had to prove a lot of people wrong to where, and he was one of the most selfless guys I've ever interacted with, because Austin Mack had that unbelievable catch in the Grey Cup. We all know about the play with Philpott where Philpott just recognized the coverage, went to the left, cut back in center, caught the touchdown. Cole Speaker too. It even goes to Noel Thorpe as well with the defense as well, where it's the same thing, where the defenders just they're not just gonna hit you and be like, oh, how are you doing? No, it's a smack every time. They're there to basically, like what football players say, to cause pain and do all that stuff. Like guys like Darnell Sankey coming back, Tyrese Beverett's a name I feel like more CFL fans have to get acquainted with, because he's a bad man. And then obviously you got Mark Anthony Duquois back there in the secondary. Basically, it's just I still say this too. I think come that second Saturday in November, it's either going to be Percival Molson or BMO Field hosting the East Final, as if both teams are in it for a fourth straight year. I still don't know. I don't want to make a Grey Cup prediction just because the CFL is the one league where, look, parity exists and the West is wide open. But I still feel like at the end of the day, no matter what, and like you said too with Jason Moss, he wanted to cut Davis Alexander and he did that. So it's if it's Davis Alexander, if it's Chad Kelly, Nick Arbuckle, I still feel like those are the best two teams in the East. And it's just the other two are kind of figuring out, hey, where do we fit in this picture? Do we move forward or do we move backwards?
And let's not forget, Ottawa and Hamilton have both made tremendous strides this year. They have definitely added some pure talent, and they are good. They're not going to just wither away because Montreal and Toronto have been so good for so long. I think they're going to up the compete level big time against. I think all four of these Eastern teams are going to make a lot of noise. They're going to be vastly improved. In fact, I've said it before on other shows, and I'll say it again. I would truly not be surprised if this is the year where the East finally crosses over to the West, because there's just that much talent on all four teams. I know it sounds crazy, but I mean, I look at all four of them, and I think you could truly make a case for each and every one of them being the best, and ultimately, I won't say the worst, but you can make a case for them being be fourth place, which again, not necessarily a bad thing, but at the same time, if you want to make the playoffs, you gotta put your best foot forward. And ultimately, I look at the West, and yeah, there's a lot of talent, but I think a lot of it has sort of plateaued in a lot of ways, to the point where could you see three strong enough teams versus what the East is able to produce? So I mean, I truly wouldn't be surprised. I know it sounds crazy, but I just wouldn't be surprised if maybe, just maybe, this is the year where one of those four Eastern teams takes a trip west to get, try and make it to the Grey Cup.
Yeah, I completely agree. And when I say that, by the way, with Montreal and Ottawa, I just think it's like those two teams are still the cream, just because with them, there's not so much questions to be answered, but it's more just them keep the lugging forward. Meanwhile, with Ottawa, it's because I still say this, if Ottawa digresses for any reason, there's going to be change in the nation's capital if they don't make strides forward. I'm not saying they have to win the East or host a home playoff game, but if they're on the outside looking within, it means that something went wrong. And then with Hamilton, it's just Hamilton's got to start fast. Hamilton can't afford to do what they did last year again, because it's the same thing too. You have an aging quarterback, and they're basically showing like, hey, we want to compete, but we also kind of need to compete just because we don't know how much longer we have with our current system in place. But I completely agree with you with the West. Look, there's one West team I don't buy stock into in the moment. That's Calgary. I like VA as a quarterback. I just think that Calgary's in that weird transition period where it's kind of like, hey, the good times are coming to an end. And then with Winnipeg too, you have the same thing. But then I'm not ready to say it with them, because we said it last year. They were 0-3, and who won the West and went to the Grey Cup? And if it weren't for Zach Claros' injury, we don't know if the Bombers lose 3 in a row. So there's a lot of questions to be answered. But ultimately, when it comes to the East right now, I have the most faith in not just the players, but in Jason Moss and in Ryan Dinwiddie, because both have created cultures of not just not just cultures that players want to play for, but it's sustained cultures of success. And Jason Moss has done it in 3 years by winning a Grey Cup and going to an East Final. And a storyline not a lot of people are paying attention to is the fact that if the Argonauts win this year, that's dynasty talk coming up with 3 and 4. So that's where I was coming from with that message.
Yeah, and it's funny because everybody was talking about, is Winnipeg a dynasty, because they've been in the 5 last Grey Cups, winning 2 and losing 3, but I can't call them a dynasty because of losing the last 3. But still, it's still back to back Western champions. I mean, in that sense, there's a dynasty there. But you're right. If Toronto manages to get to and win the Grey Cup again this year, that's 3 and 4 years. I mean, that to me, you got to win at least 3 in a short period of time. That would make, as far as I'm concerned, that is a dynasty.
Thank you, guys. New friend of the show, Cliff Pine, agrees with me. I'd love to see it. Oh, but no, I'm with you, because like I still think you got to win at least 3 and 4, 3 and 5 to get there. I just, like I said too, we don't know what's going to happen this week. We have a great kickoff game where, look, both Toronto and Montreal, you got a team that's pissed off and you got a team with something to prove. So it's going to be fun. But if I had to ask you right now, because obviously, like I could say, what's Davis Alexander going to be like Friday night? It's easy picking. So my ultimate question to you is, What's the ultimate X factor for the Montreal side of the ball if they want to start the season 1-0 come Friday?
Ultimately, I think it's offense, because we know this defense is absolutely ferocious. It's been like that for the past couple of years, and there is truly no signs of stopping. Like I think this front seven for the Alouettes defense is going to cause extreme damage this year. I mean, they are going to be bullies. They are going to be angry. They're going to destroy people. And as an Alouettes fan, you got to love that. You got to love that feeling that like Noel Thorpe has so many weapons at his arsenal, and he's a wizard. I mean, he just knows how to get the very best out of those defensive players. So he's going to come in and make opposing offenses fight for everything, fight for every yard, for every point that they manage to score on this defense. And there may not be too many to be scored, but if you score, that means you had to work your butt off to get those points. With that in mind, though, they say defense wins championships, but you still got to put points on the board. And I think for Montreal, it's going to be a bit of a proving ground, because Davis Alexander has proven that he can play in this league. He definitely has shown he can be a starter and he can win in this league. There's no question about that. He's got a ton of weapons at his disposal, guys that can catch the ball and make outstanding plays happen in the receiving core. I would say if there's an X factor, it would probably be the offensive line, because there's some very talented offensive linemen on this team, but they got to step up in a major way. They got to give their young quarterback time and space to be able to do what he does. You got to create those holes for the running backs, the rookie running backs, essentially, to hit those holes and get those yards and make magic happen as well. Ultimately, though, I think a lot of the points are going to be scored because Davis is not afraid to throw the long ball. He's not going to dink and dunk his way downfield. He's going to grip it and rip it. And I think of guys like Austin Mack, Tyson Philpott, Charleston Rambo, those guys are going to benefit so much from passing like Davis can do and scoring lots of touchdowns. If all of that can come together, then yes, this Alouettes offense is going to be just as ferocious as the defense, and that's going to be just great for Alouettes Nation league-wide, as far as I'm concerned.
I completely agree with you, and I think another underrated storyline, kind of like in BC with a full year of Nathan Rourke, is going to be a full year of Austin Mack, because as everyone knows, he was trying to make it in the NFL last year with Atlanta, came back, got hurt, and wasn't really the same. So I think him now, new contract, fully healthy, and just ready to go out and perform. I think he's going to kind of remind people why he is one of the best receivers in this league, along with Philpott, who was also hurt last year as well, because towards the end, it was kind of not slim pickings, but it was like, you saw the difference when Montreal didn't have their best weapons versus when they did. So I really like that take, because on the Argonaut side of the ball, I'm mainly watching for the defensive front seven just because it's so new and it's so gutted. But with Wynton McManus back there, I have all the faith in them to, make the plays that they need to make in order to win. My big question is going to be the same thing, is just how does Nick Arbuckle do? Because the Toronto does have one of the better offensive lines in the league, but with that Montreal defensive line and that Montreal linebacking core coming right at him, like I said, Tyrese Beverett, Darnell Sankey, etc., coming for him, is he able to hook up with Tavares Daniels, with DeMonte Coxie, Dejon Brissett? Jake Herzl is another name to watch out for. Same with David Unger. There's a lot of ways. So I'm really intrigued to see how does Nick do, because with before it was, hey, Nick, win one game. And now look, and I know Chad's been practicing this week, but I would lean, last I heard, it was Nick's practicing with the first team and Chad's with the second team. So I do think that it is going to be Nick on Friday night. But more or less, it's, hey, you won these games. Because think about it. He's going to have a target on his back, because it's, you came in, won the Grey Cup on a whim. Now you're the guy. When you're the guy, it's a lot harder. So I love the two comparisons with Davis and with Nick, because it's, at the end of the day, who handles that pressure more? But also the other factor, too, to this all, and we can't ignore this, is the fact that there won't be any air horns Friday night at Percival Molson.
It'll still be allowed, and I'm sure Nick Arbuckle, I don't think he's going to be scared. I don't think this moment's going to be too big for him, because he stepped in just a few months ago. He stepped onto that very field and, yes, led the Toronto Argonauts to the Grey Cup, one that everybody was expecting Montreal to do what Toronto should have done in 2023, perhaps, is just dominate and get back to the game. But even losing Chad Kelly, the Argos didn't falter. They didn't, turn tail and run. They just went to Nick Arbuckle, and he had no problem taking on this defense. I mean, it's a scary defense, but he found a way to make it work, and he did what needed to be done to get the Argos to the Grey Cup. And I don't think he's going to be scared at all. I don't think he's not going to look at this as, too big of a moment for him, because again, look what he was able to do just a few short months ago. I think he's just going to take this approach of, it's just another game. It's just another victory I have to go out and get, and just do what he does best. And he's proven he's more than more enough of a capable quarterback to lead the Argos to victory. So as long as he just sticks to what he does best, and he finds those receivers that you were talking about, he's got running backs as well that he's going to want to test and see that they can hang with him as well, and hang with his entire Argos offense. It's going to be a very offensively, I think for both teams, it's going to be a very interesting game. And I think it'll be an interesting kind of feeling out process as well. I'm sure mistakes are going to be made on both sides. I think as they try to understand and gel within the system that they've created within their own organizations, it's going to make for a very entertaining football game. That much I can guarantee. This Friday will be a very entertaining football game.
I agree. And also the point I was going to try to make with both guys is I think it's whoever can best rebound from their mistakes is going to be the one that probably wins this game. Because we all know with quarterbacking, if you can rebound and stay afloat from after making a mistake, it's usually when you're fine. It's when one mistake leads to another. It's kind of when you go down that dark rabbit hole and eventually to defeat. So I think it's whatever quarterback can handle. Say, hey, you throw a wonky pick, there's an unfortunate fumble. It's one of those things. It's how do you regroup? How do you get the group back together and just keep moving forward? Because there's two brilliant offensive minds even on the sidelines with Ryan Dinwiddie, Mike Miller, and then obviously a little well-known quarterback named Anthony Calvillo for the Montreal Alouettes as well.
Yeah, and also Michael Leonello, the receivers coach for the Alouettes, is also a big part of designing this offense, and also too the guy that's going to get the most out of those receivers. So I mean, like if you think they make outstanding plays, a lot of it is due to his coaching. So I mean, you got, as you said, just a wealth of offensive potential on both sides of for both of these teams. It is, again, this is going to be a very entertaining game without question.
Oh, I think so too, and I can't wait for it. But you know what? We also have 4 other games we get to talk about. There's 3 other games, we get to talk about, which I still find it weird that this is the one that's opening the year. But the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the Ottawa Redblacks, this is a really good litmus test to see how legit either side is, because there's a lot of pressure on Saskatchewan to, maybe be the team to take the mantle from their rivals in the West. And then with Ottawa, you have the chance to kind of say, hey, we keep lugging on. We added Geno Lewis. We're getting a Darius Pickett back. We are ready to see the elevation of Drew Brown. So I got to ask you, where do you see this game going? And do you see that -3.5 for Saskatchewan? Do you see that being a thing, or do you think Ottawa keeps us close?
As a quick sidebar, as a Toronto supporter, doesn't it insult you that the Argos don't have a chance to host the first game of the year to unveil that championship banner and get people excited about the team?
See, here's the thing. I thought so with that, but then I remember the CFL schedule was a wonky thing, and you guys had to wait till week 3 to do it last year as well. You had to go to the team you beat, and then you had to go to Edmonton for some reason, and then you came back home, played against Montreal, played against Ottawa. I made I made some good money on that game because I knew Montreal was going to run away with it, and yeah. So it's more me looking at the CFL, but I think it was probably a stadium booking conflict. Meanwhile, with you guys, I have no idea why you guys did that, but I preferably would like to see Toronto home this Thursday night. But you know what? I'm good for a good Saturday 4:00 kickoff next weekend.
Okay. Well, no, listen, I don't know. Maybe I'm just so used to the NFL basically saying the Super Bowl champions get to host
they should
the very first game.
1,000% should.
Like, and it was just so weird that Montreal had to go to Winnipeg, who they beat for the Grey Cup. Like, I didn't get that energy, but anyways. I'm going. I can go on about this on a tangent on this, but we won't do that.
I could too. We'll save it for another. We'll save it for July. We'll save it for another show.
There you go. Yes. So Saskatchewan and Ottawa, definitely an interesting, very first game of the 2025 season. As you discussed, both these teams have definitely made moves. I think ultimately it's going to come down to the quarterback. Trevor Harris has not played a full season as a member of the Riders.
Nope.
If he could do that this year, then all the hype that people really do believe in Trevor Harris as a quarterback. And I'm not saying he's a terrible quarterback, but I find he plays things very safe. He's very good at padding his stats and can win games, but at the same time, not somebody that I've ever seen as a true winner in the sense that he's the guy that you can rely on to get your team to the Grey Cup. He's only ever done it once in his career, but somehow managed to get that reputation of being the guy that you can rely on, like almost that insurance policy, if you will. And for whatever reason, that just escapes me. I just don't get it like that. Whereas I look at Drew Brown and what he's been able to accomplish in a short time in Ottawa, and he's got something to prove. And I like the fire that he brings to the team. Like, he wants to be in that conversation with the Zach Collaros and the Davis Alexanders and the Bo Levi Mitchells, even as far as not necessarily an elite quarterback, but be considered a very good quarterback, that one that can compete and maybe eventually bring the team to the promised land as well. So this is going to be a fun match, I think. In this instance, I'm seeing here that Saskatchewan's favored by 3.5.
Yes, sir.
I can go with that. I think Saskatchewan can cover that. I won't say quite easily, but I think that environment in Saskatchewan is like nothing else. Like, watching a game in Saskatchewan is such a treat. And I don't think Ottawa's going to be intimidated necessarily, especially with guys like Gino Lewis and William Stanback essentially being the focal points of the offense for the Red Blacks. But I think Saskatchewan's going to do just enough to make sure that their fans go home happy and get that first win of the season.
Give me Saskatchewan to win 28-24. You know, it's one of those games where Ottawa makes it close, but then either something happens towards the end of the game, or it's just they make a couple mistakes early on, say in the second quarter or like right out of the half, that they try to rebound from, but it's too little too late. That's what I think. I think it's like a hard-fought Rough Rider win where the green and white go home happy Thursday evening.
Yeah, it won't be a case of Ottawa losing the game. They just won't win the game.
Yes, it's not like, oh, Ottawa lost because of this. It's, hey, Ottawa didn't win because of X, Y, and Z.
Exactly.
And then Toronto, Montreal, where the Alouettes, look, that 4.5 line is staring us in the face. I don't think we need to go into too much detail on who we think is going to win each game, because I'm going to assume you're going to pick the Toronto Argonauts like I am.
Obviously, to be the man, you have to beat the man, right? So,
right. But no, I think it's like we just said. I think this matchup ultimately comes down to which quarterbacks, either rise to the moment or rise up from just, a couple plays where they weren't too happy from, to where it's like a real stepping stone. But I do think we get a very similar game to the East Final. Sans the Janarian Grant return, which he's not practiced all week. He is hurt, so it's looking like he's not going to play. But also, too, there's that really weird Benji Franklin pick 6. I don't think something like that's going to occur in this game either. So I think this could be a game where it comes down to who has the ball last, to be honest with you. Like the game in September of 23, which I still say, had Toronto lost that game, I think there's a chance that they were in the Grey Cup in Hamilton that year and not Montreal. But you know what? If it's ends and buts for candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas.
From your lips to God's ears. No, I definitely agree. I think it could be, and ultimately, I think whoever stays the most disciplined, that could be a big factor in it as well, because it's very easy, especially for Montreal. It's going to be their home opener. They haven't had a home opener this early in a long, long time. I think these guys are going to be hyped. They're going to be excited. They're going to want to show up. They're going to show out. You got a crazy crowd that's going to be rocking and excited for them as well. And the key is you still got to stay grounded. You still got to, be where your feet are, as they say. And if Montreal can do that, if they can maintain discipline, I think ultimately whoever maintains the discipline the best is going to win this game. So I think it'll be, as you said, it could come down to one play, and just it could be a game-winning field goal or even a game-winning rouge that could be the ultimate deciding factor for this one.
Spicy. We love it. That's why. Keep it unreal in the CFL. And then Saturday, we got 2 games where we got Calgary hosting Edmonton at 7:00 Eastern, which I find very interesting, but nevertheless, here we are. Look, I said my piece on Calgary earlier. I also kind of think this is a game that Hamilton has to win, because, they get Saskatchewan next Saturday night at home in their home opener like last year. But I think for this game, if you're Hamilton, you got to go into this game and you got to leave your mark. At the end of the game, the Tiger has to triumph the horse. I don't think that they can afford to lose. Because if they lose this game the way they did last year, which was pretty bad, they've had a pretty lousy effort. those questions are going to start coming up about, oh, is it the same old Hamilton? Is it going to come to year 26 of the drought and all that stuff? So I'm going Hamilton, not because I want to, but because I think they need to. I think if you're the Ticats, you lose this game, and those like little voices in your head that are saying, same old Ticats are going to start getting a little louder.
I look at a game like this, and one of my first thoughts is go with the better quarterback. Question is, who is the better quarterback between Vernon Adams and Bo Levi Mitchell? Truthfully, I don't think even they know who is the better quarterback between those two. And it's not to take anything away from either one of them, because they are both in their own right absolutely fantastic quarterbacks, and both want to win. Both have something to prove. Both are hungry. And maybe even the idea of Bo going into his old house, even though he's already played a game there before as a Hamilton Tiger Cat, it's still the idea that, yeah, this used to be my playground. This used to be my backyard. And you got VA that's saying, well, it's mine now. So if you want this, you're going to have to come get it. So it's going to make for, I think, a very interesting matchup. I mean, let's not forget, Calgary did win both of their preseason games. And a lot of people have been kind of down on the Stampeders, but I think that's kind of how they like it. I know that's how Vernon likes it. He loves it when people doubt him, because they've been doing it his whole career. And all he's ever done is prove them wrong more often than not. And if he can do that again, especially against a Hamilton team that, as you said, has a lot to prove and is eager to showcase what they can do as well, it's going to make for a very interesting game. I think honestly, in this case, once again, a very slim margin, but I think Calgary is hungry enough, and they're going to keep this party going. They want to keep the momentum of having 2 wins, even if they don't count in the standings. They want to, as far as they're concerned, they want to go 3-0 to start 2025. And honestly, as long as Vernon Adams can keep himself in check, find his receivers, make magic happen, I could see him pulling out the win here.
You know what? Like I said, I can see that happening. I'm just picking for the reasons I said. I don't want to choose Hamilton. I do think there's a very good chance Calgary wins this game. I just think that because here's the thing. Hamilton fans are an interesting folk of human being. But Calgary's the team that no one kind of believes in right now. This week, I think for the first time in a long time, the CFL writers, they posted their picks of who's going to win. Obviously, It was a clean sweep for Montreal, Toronto, and they all picked Montreal. But for this one too, I believe they all picked Hamilton. So it's either does Hamilton win, or does Calgary social department get to have a little bit of fun on Saturday night? We'll just have to wait to see and find out. And then, we got Lions, we got Elks, and we got Snoop Dogg in BC Place Saturday night in a game that, look, I like what Edmonton's doing. Did they gut the entire Toronto defensive core? Slightly. I like Mark Kalam as a coach. But this is a really fun game, because you have 2 teams that, look, you have a BC team that honestly had a disappointing end of their year. You have 2 new head coaches in Buck Pierce and in Mark Kalam. I'm going to let you have the floor first on this one, and then I'll see where I lean.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. 2 rookie head coaches, essentially, finally getting their opportunity. Some would say that they should have had quite some time ago. And I think when you think about the pageantry and all the excitement of Snoop Dogg playing, they always have a really awesome concert to get things started in BC and hopefully get fans excited. I'm sure they're hoping that, I think they sold well over 50,000 tickets for the game, which is absolutely phenomenal.
Yep.
I think they're hoping that those 50,000 people stay put for the game, not just go watch Snoop Dogg do his thing and then peace out afterwards. If they stick around and watch the game and help build an atmosphere, I think that'd be tremendous. I mean, especially with Nathan Rourke coming back into form. Like, he's, from what I've saw of him in the preseason, I mean, I think he's back. I think he's back to being that guy that caught lightning in a bottle in 2022 and did absolutely phenomenal things. And he's going to need it, because I don't see a whole lot of pure talent, surrounding him. He's going to have to carry a lot of the load, which is a lot to ask of a quarterback. But if you're going to do that, Nathan Rourke is the quarterback that can take that kind of pressure, put it on his back, and make it work. Again, making chicken salad out of chicken poop. I think if anyone can do that, it's definitely going to be Nathan Rourke. However, I do think Edmonton, though, is not going to just roll over and die like they have in years previous. I mean, they've gone to BC Place and basically had their lunch eaten for them by the Lions. But I think that the way this Edmonton Elks team is right now, they've got a lot to prove. I think Trey Ford, he looks at that Canadian quarterback competition, and I think he wants to be he wants to be in that conversation as well. He wants people to notice him as well, and he's going to make plays happen. Yeah, the guy is a human cheat code as far as I'm concerned. Like, he can really, truly make some outstanding plays happen. Same thing though, he's going to have guys step up in a big way and help him out. So this is one of those games that I think could, on paper doesn't look really exciting, other than the fact that Snoop Dogg's going to be playing beforehand. But this could be one of those games that could just come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden that's the game of the week, because wow, these two quarterbacks are throwing haymakers at each other and just making things happen, and the defenses are coming alive at the right time, and all of a sudden that's your game of the week. That's the one where everybody has no choice but to sit up and take notice of. I think though, the home dog, you got to go with the home dog. I go with Snoop Dogg, you go with the home dog. I think BC is going to pull out of this game, and they're going to keep their momentum going in a good way as well.
I completely agree. I think the Lions going to roar louder than the Elk. I just think that, look, Trey Ford, he's a great quarterback. I still think he's got a lot to prove. I think this is going to be the year that Nathan Rourke kind of writes his redemption arc. He's also, if you guys want to make a little bit of money out of there, plus 700 to win MOP this year in the CFL. Chad Kelly's first with plus 450, but Nathan Rourke plus 700, which would mean a $100 bet wins you $700. I'm not saying to bet $100. It's just that's the math involved. But no, I still think Edmonton's a team where they're going to be that scrappy bunch where I think we kind of see it all the time. And like, we don't see it so much in the CFL, but more the NFL. Or actually, I'm going to give an example. I could see them being like what Hamilton was last year, where it's like but not start 0-5, but get off to a bit of a wonky start, find their rhythm. But by the time they find their rhythm, it's basically you're playing playoff football from Labor Day till the end of October, which if you're doing that, usually it's not going to go well. But I think it's one of those things to where next year, come 2026, everyone's like, okay, Edmonton's no longer the team to make fun of, because at that point, they can rise up as a Calgary or a Winnipeg slowly starts to decline. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but with Calgary, we just don't know what they're going to be yet because there's a bit of an identity crisis. And with Winnipeg, it's one of those things, they can't keep getting away with this. Eventually, someone's going to knock it off because, like I said, it's for as much as we talk about the East, it's truly the wild, wild West in the CFL.
In a lot of respects, it is. And I think Edmonton, too, with Mark Killam, he's going to want to mold this team in his image. And we know what kind of a special teams coach he was. I mean, just absolutely outstanding. He was absolutely loved in Calgary because, in a lot of sense, like the Jason Mosses and Noel Thorpes, he knows how to get the most out of his players, and his players will run through a wall for him. And I think he wants to establish that sort of identity and culture in Edmonton. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take, as you said, possibly one, maybe even 2 seasons for Killam to really establish what he wants in Edmonton. And he's going to have the time and opportunity to do so. So, I mean, I won't say the pressure's on necessarily for him to win right away, but at the same time, I know what he expects out of himself and what he expects out of his team. And I think he's definitely going to motivate and definitely get these guys excited to play football. And it's going to come down to talent more than anything else. Like, just how badly they want it, how badly they want to be, stop being those lovable losers that they've been over the past couple of years and truly establish Edmonton as a powerhouse football team again.
Exactly. And another key player for BC as well, like how I said earlier with Austin Mack playing a full year because there's no NFL stuff lingering over his head anymore, but is Matthew Betts for the BC Lions as well. Another player who was awarded the best defender in 2023, tried it out for the Detroit Lions, didn't work out. He got cut right before the season started. He's going to have a full season too, and we all know what kind of game wrecker he is on the defensive side of the ball, something that, was kind of missed last year for the BC Lions in a way, if you think about it. So I think BC's just like Buck Pierce is kind of getting the keys to he's getting the keys to like not a luxury car, but he's getting a car that doesn't need a lot of work. Meanwhile, Mark Killam in Edmonton, the car needs a little bit of work done before it can really, go 0 to 100 in like 0.6 seconds.
Yeah, both these coaches have their work cut out for them, but if anyone can do it, it's definitely Buck Pierce in BC and Mark Killam in Edmonton. Like, those are two guys that give them the opportunity. Don't just, throw out the baby with the bathwater if things don't go right.
Yeah,
right away. Give them the opportunity to truly develop and build things, because they know how to win. There's no question about that. They've proven in the past that they know what it takes to win a championship. You just got to let them cook, as they say. Let them do their thing. Let them do what's best. Give them the opportunity to make magic happen. And I don't think you'll be disappointed if you're a BC Lions fan or an Edmonton Elks fan.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And I think we have 4 games this week that are truly going to show, they're going to show out. I don't see a game here where, that's going to be bad per se, but like each game has a compelling storyline going into it from Thursday night all the way to late Saturday night. You have 4 great games with 8 teams looking to rewrite their story in 2025, because we're at that point now. Everyone's 0-0. It's an even playing field for right now.
That's it. Everybody's undefeated, and that's not going to last long. So this is a very exciting time if you're a fan of any of these teams, is that the potential is there, and you see that it's there. It's just simply a matter of, can they go out and execute? Can they go and do those things that they can do in order to be the best possible team? And everybody looks good on paper, right? But at the same time, paper burns. So you got to go out. You got to play the game.
That is exactly it. You got to play the game. We don't know what happens until they play the game. But anyway, we played the game of you being on my podcast tonight. But Cliffy, if people want to find you, to follow you because they like you so much on here, please share away where people can find the show, people can find you. And as always, guys, links will be in the bio.
Absolutely. Appreciate the opportunity. Definitely check out the Alouettes Flight Deck podcast. You can find it pretty much on any major podcast platform or on YouTube. Just look for Alouettes Flight Deck. You can also go to alouettesflightdeck.ca to get all of our links. If you want to follow us on social media, you can find it there too. You find us on Twix, on Facebook, Instagram, pretty much anywhere. Just look for Alouettes Flight Deck. You'll be able to find us. By all means, make sure you like, subscribe as well. If you do follow us on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, because not only do we post our regular podcast, but we also do our post-game show, Flight Deck Live, after every game, win or lose. So make sure you hit the notification bell so you get notified as to when we do go live. And definitely check us out. Show us the love. I mean, for everything Alouettes, we want to be your source. We want to be the place that you come to get all your news, thoughts, analysis, what have you, for the Montreal Alouettes. So alouettesflightdeck.ca. You know where to find us, and we'd love to have you on board. We'd love for you to be part of the flight crew.
Absolutely. That sounds like a blast, Cliff. But anyway, all the best to Montreal this Friday and throughout the 2025 season. And you know what, guys? It's like Christmas Eve, but it's like Christmas Eve right now for Canadian football fans. So it's like 'twas the night before the night that CFL football returned to our homes, because in about 48 hours from now, we're all going to be sitting on our TVs watching those Rough Riders host the Red Blacks.
It's so exciting. What a time to be a Canadian Football League fan, because you can see that all 9 teams have done everything possible to put forth the best product out there. And who's the ultimate winner of those contests? The fans, the people that watch, the people that absorb the Canadian Football League, that enjoy it in every way, shape, or form possible. It is such an exciting time to be not just a football fan, but a Canadian football fan. It really is, and I'm jacked too. I'm excited for Thursday night just to see, honest to goodness, Canadian Football League action yet again.
You get to unwrap the Christmas presents one gift at a time, and if it's your team, you know what, you may like it or you may not, but you know what, we got 18 of these song and dances to do, because before you know it, it'll be November, I want to say 16th, and we'll all be watching Winnipeg to see who's hoisting the Grey Cup at the end of the year. That's what makes it so exciting. And just the idea that you've got football essentially from now to the end of November. It truly does not get better than that. And if you want to take it a step further, guys, if you love both leagues, you got football from now and until the middle of February. There's only a 3-month little gap. There you go. I mean, talk about taking a good thing and making it even better. The true cherry on top of the sundae. Am I right?
100%. Just perfect.
Chef's kiss. We love it. But anyway, guys, for Cliffy D. Pine of the Alouettes Flight Deck, I'm Griff Bordegon. Have a good night. And remember, CFL fans, keep it unreal.